DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
The first game of the day was the Janesville DeWitt Red Rams taking on the number 1 in the state in Class C, Somers Tuskers. Now, the Rams are led by senior long stick midfielder Ben Porter, headed to Richmond next year. Senior offensive midfielder Luke Patchen, headed to Fairfield next year. Caden Parker is a massive piece of junior, headed to Cornell next year as an LSM, and he took the face-offs for a majority of this game. But they would rely on Porter for a lot on both sides of the field, offense and defense in this game. On the first opening draw, he created the first possession for the Rams in the game, as they didn't win many face-offs all day, and right in transition, quickly down to Andrew Laubenstein, and the first goal of the game goes to the Union commit. JD wasn't done early on there, though. Ben Porter in the offense takes it over the top, pops the bottom left corner. That was the first of a few, and we'll get to him later. But after those 2 goals right there, it was all Somers. 1, then 2, then a big third over the check from Parker. And that one was from the Notre Dame commit for Somers. Matt Mayfield stacked another one on top of that, and that's the difference of having a college-committed face-off specialist versus not. And ultimately, JD went into this matchup knowing they didn't have the chance to win it at the dot, and they ultimately conceded quite often, but it put them down early. And then when they did create their chances, multiple near misses, and opportunities just right down on the crease that they could not finish. But finally, Patchen, on the beautiful turnaround jumper, hits it, trying to make it a game once again, bringing things a little bit closer, but ultimately that face-off battle was just non-existent. And with one more goal in the first, the Somers Tuskers were leading dominantly at the end of one quarter. Thanks to Mayfield, Somers picked up right where they left off in the second quarter, bagging another one and stretching the lead to 5 as Patchen came down the field, gets absolutely dogged. Obviously, a D1 commit, going to take a lot to get the ball out of his stick, but gets the possession called for his team, a 5-goal deficit. His little brother comes in to send in a stinger, makes it a 4-goal game. Unfortunately for JD, every time that they found a goal at this point in the second quarter, the Tuskers just had an answer. Finding the bottom corner on that take. Again, Iglesias with the finish there. And despite finding a way to get out of their own end most of the time, when they did get down to the net front and did get their shots on target, there was a whole lot of stops for the Tuskers keeper. Heads were low at halftime for the Rams. They were down by 5. And ultimately, the Tuskers looked like they were completely in the driver's seat, and that's exactly where they were. The Red Rams needed a plan for the second half. Of course, with Caden Parker taking the majority of the faceoffs against Mayfield, that meant they had to start out on defense. Thankfully, their group of Poles came up with a Hildreth ground ball and turned it into a Patchen opportunity. This was the golden chance for Janesville DeWitt, a chance to score. 5-hole shot gets completely swallowed up, and then it's a dagger the other way to make it a 6-goal game. After that, there was a slight sense of life from Jamesville DeWitt in the form of a Ben Porter driving chance. He hit his second goal of the game right there, and then immediately follows it up with another corner painter. To start the fourth, again, it was a Tuskers possession, and they immediately scored, making it a 5-goal lead once again. But then it was a chance for Ben Porter to just paint another corner. That's 3 absolute snipes, his 4th goal of the day. And if those were 2-pointers like they are in pro lacrosse and there was a 2-point line, we'd be talking about a completely different game. But instead, it's back to a 4-goal game. Andrew Laubenstein drives to make it a 3-goal game, but unfortunately, they couldn't bring it any closer than that. The Tuskers take it as JD runs out of time. They could not string it together, and ultimately, with those face-off wins just not going in their favor, they didn't stand a chance in the second half to get enough possessions. And so that senior group of Luke Patchen and Ben Porter will graduate. Patchen still going to be in the red and white at Fairfield. Porter still going to be in the red and white at Richmond. But that's the end for them as the Red Rams, with the Tuskers reigning supreme. The energy in Game 2 was just different, and that was because it was 2 upstate New York teams, and one of them being a Section 5 team meant Penn Yan absolutely showed out for their Mustangs, an opportunity to win their 2nd ever state title, their 1st in Class D. Chenango Forks did everyone the favor of knocking Cold Spring Harbor out in the semifinal round with a 5-4 win, majorly thanks to Lucas Bartlow. In Cage, both teams bring a Division I commit, but Penn Yan brought the home field advantage. Absolutely no doubt about that one. But the goalie duel was bound to happen, and it was incoming without a shadow of a doubt. One area where there wasn't as much of a battle was still scrappy, but clearly a one-sided battle was Grayson Hathaway at the faceoff dot. A freshman there gave Penn Yan possession after almost every single goal. Unfortunately for them, early, the defensive game plan worked for Chenango Forks. Shut down Tegan Finger whenever he came above goal line extended, and when he did get shots, give him ones that the Syracuse commit and Lucas Bartlow would like. Meanwhile, on the other end, the Penn Yan defense was doing much of the same, but Chenango Forks ultimately came up with the ground balls time and time again, and the Blue Devils were forcing possessions to go their way. But ultimately, on his end, Will Thompson came up with his own stops for the Fairfield commit. Bartlow, though, it seemed both of these goalies just simply outdid each other time and time again. And again on the ground ball battle, early in this game, despite there being no score yet in the first 5 minutes or so of this one, Chenango Forks was clearly winning the ground ball battle and driving in transition. The other thing was some of Thompson's saves early were clear offensive rebound opportunities, and that's where the first goal of the game came for Chenango Forks. Then, on another face-off, it was a quick win off the wing, but the ride from the attackman for Chenango Forks was where the opportunity came. Again, though, Thompson there to shut it down. Penn Yan's attempted answer, though, was not enough, as it was still Bartlow getting shut down the second he stepped above goal line extended. This time, it was a strip on the slide, and then down the other way, a shot from the top, Brody Polachek with a Kobe assist there to get the finish for Moss. Then, driving inside Chenango Forks with a 2-goal lead, tries to set up Polachek, but again, Will Thompson there for a big shutdown, and that creates the transition opportunity, but again, outdoing each other. Bartlow with the save right in transition, and another stop. That was 3 back-to-back saves to close out the first quarter, but it was a 2-goal lead for Chenango Forks. Both teams had a clear goal early on in the second quarter. For Penn Yan, it was get Tegan Finger rolling. Unfortunately, it didn't work on their first possession. Meanwhile, for Chenango Forks, they were trying to get shooters to the net front and finish off of their cuts. Unfortunately for them, it didn't work on their first opportunity either. When Penn Yan tried to get the ball to the front of the net, they couldn't complete the pass. Got extended to a Chenango Forks 3-0 lead before behind the cage Tucker Fisher gets absolutely swallowed up and taken down, drawing the flag and giving Penn Yan the first man-up opportunity of the day. Everyone knew exactly where the ball was going, but Tegan Finger's shot blocked. Fortunately for Penn Yan at this point, the ground balls started to go their way. And right there, another opportunity snuffed out by Bartlow, but this time the rebound falls to Penn Yan, of course, with the numbers opportunity, and Tegan Finger fights his way through three, takes the hit on the fourth, but buries the first Penn Yan goal of the game. Makes it 3-1, and then this is what having a great face-off specialist can do. A ground ball win for Finger, takes it all the way down, quick throw to X, and then the swing up to the top of the key. And a quick hitch back around, keeps it on his right the whole time, and Tegan Finger has the open hands for that shot and makes it a 1-goal game. They kept trying to drive it in front, but Bartlow absolutely rejecting that opportunity and then fighting for the ground ball. He kept doing that all day. Both of these goalies truly seemed like they weren't ready to play their last high school lacrosse game for their home teams. Meanwhile, the other way, it was a chance for Chenango Forks. They drove down onto the crease and finished their opportunities, knowing that's the only place you can finish against goalies this good unless you've got an absolutely elite shooter. And meanwhile, on the other end, the elite shooter was also an elite facilitator, being able to draw slides all day and create opportunities like this for Mike Gigliotti. But unfortunately, Luke Bartlow is out here stealing highlights and takes a big one right there, and then goes for a little bit of a run, realizing he can help end the ride chances, driving in transition, that more possessions for Chenango Forks, and they created off of them as, again, trying to just swing the ball for opportunities meant Joey O'Connor could bag an opportunity for the 5th Chenango Forks goal of the day. He tried to get another one, but Thompson said no, and the first half ended 5-2 in favor of the Blue Devils. Unfortunately for the Mustangs, as the third quarter opened, it was Bauer Moss adding another goal for Chenango Forks to make it a 4-goal lead, erasing a flag from the field. Trying to force the ball down to Tegan Finger was not working early on in the quarter, but you'll see it work out eventually here, as on this opportunity, an easy save for Will Thompson means a quick goal for Tucker Fisher in transition. That one was just making the extra pass and flowing with it, and Bartlow could not make the stop. Then it was a chance for Tegan Finger to pop off. He slid right over the top on that righty chance, scored his 3rd goal of the day. Then on another battle at the face-off dot between a slew of players, it was again the wing play of Braden Finger coming up with the ground ball. Drove it down for Fisher to get another chance, but Bartlow had the stop this time. And again, Penn Yan bringing themselves at least even on the ground balls. Finger this time driving above goal line extended, is able to create all the separation he needs for his 4th goal of the day. Then driving in transition, another chance for Finger, and it's finger to finger on that one. Braden dishing it over to Tegan for a tied ball game at 6-6. 5 of those scored by Tegan Finger so far in this game. The Mustangs weren't done just yet. Tegan Finger above goal line extended again, feeds it into the slot for Tucker Fisher, and he finishes that one down low against Lucas Bartlow. A 7-6 game. Thompson making another stop on the defensive end, but on the ride, quickly back the other way for Chenango Forks, and Bauer Moss makes him pay with a game-tying goal again. 7-7 the scoreline. Tucker Fisher tries to finish the hat trick, but Lucas Bartlow makes the stop and comes out of his cage for a big-time ground ball. I thought he was driving all the way for a shot on this one, but he smartly takes the outlet pass out. Last possession of the third quarter, Chenango Forks trying to get the ball down low. Gigliotti comes up with the ground ball, and it's 7-7 after 3. As the fourth quarter started, it was clear this game had the physicality of a state championship. Even when Chenango Forks would win clamps, Grayson Hathaway was so key on almost a ride off of face-off wins. No call on this play here to create a ground ball for Penn Yan. They turn it the other way, and Tegan Finger buries his 6th. So quick, I even missed it. Has his 6th, and that's the 8th Penn Yan goal of the day. Then trying to drive, he's also a creator and an initiator. Dishes behind to Fisher, and he finds Braden Finger for almost a one-timer as he pops the top netting on the near side corner and makes it a 2-goal game. 9-7 the scoreline. Then the other way for Chenango Forks, John Figueroa gets out in front, and again, those were the only places the Blue Devils could finish against Will Thompson. Meanwhile, Tegan Finger, his 7th, maybe his most impressive. Bouncing off of bodies, hits the bouncer off the foot of Bartlow, and scores his 7th goal of the day. With a 2-goal lead for the Mustangs, though, it was Jacob Andrews, the sophomore midfielder, trying to create an opportunity at the face-off dot. Wins possession for the Blue Devils, and they try to create, but Will Thompson says no once, and then it's O'Connor trying to create his opportunity, and Thompson says no again. Sends the ball in transition, and the final dagger comes out of the Penn Yan midfield. Mike Gigliotti finds Braden Finger for the high-to-low shot, and a 3-goal lead is enough to take the Penn Yan Mustangs to the promised land. Will Thompson and Tegan Finger, the seniors, lead Penn Yan to a 9-3 second half comeback to come out with the 11-8 win. Penn Yan's first state championship in any of these players' lifetimes. Last time they made it here was 2001. They were in Class C then. And there's no question with the cheers he got, Will Thompson is the player of the game. Game 3 was the Class A matchup of 2 undefeated juggernauts. The storied program of the 15-time New York State champion West Genesee Wildcats taking on the #1 public high school in the United States of America in the Half Hollow Hills Red Colts. The Wildcats started out with a solid chance from the face-off dot, but unfortunately their offense had a hard time early, and Half Hollow Hills did not. The Red Colts scored the first 3 goals of the game with ease, getting to the net front and creating opportunities time and time again. The second opportunity there finished by Ryan Chung, and at the face-off dot, he was a big factor on the wing throughout this game as well. A D3 commit headed to Bates, creating opportunities, and then again down to the net front. That's just where Half Hollow Hills lived throughout this game. They get 3 there, and then in transition, not able to fall for West Genesee, and even when they did get the ball in transition, they weren't able to settle it. They end the first quarter down 4-1. Second quarter, Half Hollow Hills picked up right where they left off. Chung feeding the All-American in Rayo for the 5th goal of the day. Then Lockwood had something to say, swinging it down the other way, but there's a chance it was too little too late. The second goal to make it a 3-goal game, but this was where it started. Each time West Genny scored, an answer from Half Hollow Hills, and on this one, they had a double answer. It was Rayo, then Bruno. Driving down the other way, Chase Kogan, the transfer to Lafayette, gets the pass inside. He had 4 assists. Feeds a chance for West Genny. It's a 4-goal game at 7-3. Chung keeps stacking it on, though. 8-3. Now the scoreline, a 5-goal difference between these two teams, and ultimately, that's when Jack Wenham started to go off, but it might have been a little bit too late. He bagged his first of 6 for the future Geneseo product. You'll see quite a few more of those. On the next face-off, what was thought to be a win for the Wildcats quickly turns into a holding call, a ghost of a hold call, and then the Lacrosse gods were clearly on the side of the Red Colts. A bobbled ball in front of the cage finds its way into the back of the net. As the third opened up, it was a 6-goal game and quickly made a 7-goal game by Rayo, driving through the All-American, completing his hat trick right there. And on the other end, Half Hollow Hills coming up with big-time stops. John Schultz trying to get stops of his own, and he did right there, but when they drove down low for Half Hollow Hills, the Red Colts were able to continue burying. It was a power play goal to end the third for Jack Wenham, but ultimately not enough. Wenham scored again on the man up to open the fourth quarter, and then it was Chase Kogan getting his hands free up top to score as well, but ultimately the deficit going into the fourth just too big. Jack Wenham ends the game with a sock trick, another save for Schultz at the end of things, a double to make it there, but Lockwood, as he tries to bring up the ball, just runs out of time, gets absolutely trampled, and the Half Hollow Hills Red Colts end victorious in the faces of defeat for the Wildcats, as some of them will be able to come back, but no question a tough day for Jack Wenham and company, as he did all that he could in that one. The final game of the day was arguably the toughest one to watch. Top team in Class B being Garden City, and they were led by a dominant man at the face-off dot, future Navy player Luke Cascadden dominated the face-off dot and allowed Garden City to possess the ball for really a majority of this game. Early on against Canandaigua, they scored the first 4 in the first quarter and just never slowed down, driving through the middle. The most impressive goal that I saw all day of the 4 games scored right there, one-handed, and Canandaigua just could not do anything about it. Even when Cascadden wasn't winning face-off battles on the clamp, his wings came through for him to sweep up ground balls, and even in those times when Canandaigua did get possession, they were trying to force passes down onto the crease where guys were not open, and they just ultimately could not find strong scoring opportunities. Meanwhile, the ground ball battle was clearly in favor of Garden City. Anytime that Canandaigua did win a ground ball, it was just a stick check and ball back to the Trojans. And here, opportunity for Williamy on the crease again, just trying to force balls up high into covered guys and not able to create. Then the other way, Garden City, when they don't score, they're even able to find rebounds. And on the crease, when it's that easy, it's just too easy, ultimately, for Garden City. Still first quarter here, as, again, probably the best shot opportunity of the day for Canandaigua comes off of that shot by Drew Williamy, but nothing coming. And then in the second quarter, 8 more goals for Garden City, and they start out with that one right there. Ultimately, for Quentin Shedrick, a tough day, only played to the first half, giving up 12 goals, only making 5 saves on those attempts. Meanwhile, the other way, still Canandaigua trying to force opportunities just above goal line extended, getting snuffed out, not able to make those extra passes, and then the other way, Garden City making them pay. In the third quarter, Garden City seemed content to stop scoring. They actually completely did not score in the third, and it was because they were just passing the ball around the horn. Then it was AJ Sturman to score the first Canandaigua goal of the game in that third quarter. And a little bit of life came back for Canandaigua as they were riding off the back of Evan Sabelli coming back into the cage. But ultimately, they could pile them on as much as they wanted through the fourth quarter. There was no coming back from the deficit that they built in the first half of this game. Garden City was basically toying with Canandaigua throughout the entire second half. The Grey Wolves even tried to go to a 10-man ride at one point. Every time they pulled the goalie out of the cage, it was an immediate empty net score. And Garden City comes out victorious with a completely dominant 14-5 win. And that game was over when it was only really 12-2. Garden City comes out on top, and a tough day for Canandaigua, but ultimately just met their match in this one in the Class B finals.